Hi Year 3, it's Mrs. Bird here with today's English lesson. For this you will need your copy of the Ice Palace, a pencil and your jotter. Okay, if you just want to pause the video now and go and get everything that you need and come back as soon as you can. Okay, so let's start this lesson. As a bit of a rewind, what I'd like you to do is just have a think about those Masters magnifiers. Can you remember what they are? Can you remember how many they are? And can you remember what colours go with each magnifier? Okay, so hopefully you will have remembered that we have the green one, which is our inference illuminator, our orange one, which is our opinion seeker, our blue one, which is our predictor, our purple one, which is our retrieval finder, our yellow one, which is our summarizer, and our red one, which is our word selector. Okay, so today we are really going to be using our purple one. So that is our retrieval finder. So our what is to retrieve information from the text, how by reading and researching, and why so that we can answer the questions about the Ice Palace. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to read together the Ice Palace to page 16, which is why you needed your book. So I'm going to pop some on the screen just in case you haven't managed to get hold of your book yet. Here it is. Okay, so turn your face into the east wind, and if you could see forever, you would see Ivan's land. It is a land where summer is short and pale like a celandine, winter long and cold as an icicle. Ivan does not live there now, for he grew old long ago and is gone. But the people of the Pine Woods remember him. They remember him all the time, but most of all, they remember him in winter because they are not afraid of winter anymore. They have no need to be afraid because of something Ivan did when he was very small. Ivan and his little brother lived in the house of their father, Blacksmith, in a village in the shadows of the great dark forest. The people of the village were poor, but in summertime they were mostly happy, so that the pale warm air rang with their laughter and their singing as they worked. But as the short summers gave way to autumn, their songs became sad songs and their laughter thin, for they knew that far away in the north, Starjik was greeting the runners of his sleigh and rounding up his wolves. Starjik, whisper his name, and it is winter in your heart. Hissing over the crisp snow in the black of the night came Starjik behind his hungry team. Their eyes were yellow and their fangs were white. When Starjik was in the village, the people lay very still behind their shutters, but always, in the morning, a child was gone. For Starjik was known in every Pinewood village as the child taker, and those he took were never seen again. One night, when an icy wind whined through the black trees and powdery snow shifted under everybody's door, Starjik came to Ivan's house. And when Ivan awoke in the morning, his little brother was gone. All the village wept for the blacksmith and his wife, and for little Ivan, who must now play alone. And little Ivan walked in Starjik's sledge tracks to the end of the village and stood there a long time, gazing north. That evening, at supper time, while his mother and father were not looking, Ivan took some of the dark bread from the big wooden board on the table and slipped it into his pocket. Then he said, "Mother, I'm very tired. I will sleep now." His mother lighted a candle for him, and he carried the little flame into his room. For a long time, he sat on his bed, listening to the small noises his parents made beyond the door of his room and to the wind outside. The wind made a sad, lonely sound, and he listened. And as he listened, it seemed to Ivan that something was crying out there in the night, something small and frightened that touched his window and moved away along the wall. And he lifted a corner of his window curtain, pressed his face to the cold glass, and whispered, "Wait, little brother, I will not leave you. I am coming." His breath made a cloud on the glass, and there was only the wind. He let the curtain fall, blew out his candle, and climbed into bed without taking off his clothes. After a while, The door of his room was opened quietly, and Ivan pretended to be sleeping while his mother smoothed his quilt and went out, closing the door behind her. Soon after that, the unhappy couple went to their room, and the house was still. Ivan slipped out of his bed and pulled on his boots. Then he took his fur parka and moved quietly to the door. Moments later, he was across the warm, dark kitchen and out into the freezing wind. Next morning, the people were awakened by the terrible cry from the blacksmith's house. The blacksmith's wife had crept early into Ivan's room and found his bed empty. All that day, the people stood about the village in groups, talking, but nobody had heard Starjik come again, and nobody could remember having known anyone as unlucky as the blacksmith and his wife. And far away, through the forest and over the hill, walked Ivan. He wore his fur parka, and between his teeth he held a squirrel tail. For if he had not, the wind would have frozen his breath into a mask of ice on his face. Ivan was afraid. He was more afraid than he had ever been, for nobody had ever seen Starjik's land and lived to return home. His head was bowed, and he cried a little as he went along, and his tears became pips of ice before they touched the snow. Okay, so we're going to leave the story there, and we're going to move on to our next part. So our why was so that we can answer the questions about the ice palace. So we were going to reuse the retrieval finder to answer these questions. So these are the questions that we have. What is Starjik known as? Who did Starjik take? What did Ivan take and put in his pocket when no one was looking? What did Ivan whisper to his brother through the window? And why did Ivan hold the squirrel tail? Okay, so we know that when we're answering these questions that we're going to use the retrieval finder. And when using the retrieval finder, all the information that we need is in the text. Okay, so we just need to follow these steps in order to solve the questions. So the 4 steps that you need to solve any question is read it, zap it, scan it, and crack it. Okay, so what I suggest is that we do the first one. Okay, so that will be my turn. So the question was, what is Starjik known as? Okay, so I'm going to use these 4 steps to solve it. So read it. So I've read the question. What is Starjik known as? Number 2, I'm going to zap it. So I'm going to zap that question for the key information. So in that question, I have got, what is Starjik known as? So I know that I'm looking for something to do with Starjik, and I'm looking for what he is known as. So what do they call him? Number 3 is that I'm going to scan it. So I'm going to look through my text, okay, so the part that we've already read, to find that information. And I'll be looking for those keywords that I've underlined here. So I'll be looking for the word Starjik, and I'll be looking for the word known, okay. So in there, I can see that there's this sentence. For Starjik was known in every Pinewood village as the child taker, and those he took were never seen again. So I know that that has cracked my question. I've cracked it by using that, because I now can answer my question, and my answer is Starjik is known as the child taker. So that was my turn. Okay, so what I want you to do now, it's your turn. Okay, so you're going to follow those exact same steps. You're going to read it, zap it, scan it, and crack it for each of these questions in order to answer them. Here are the questions. I'll just read them to you again. Okay, so number 1, what is Starjik known as? Number 2, who did Starjik take? Number 3, what did Ivan take and put in his pocket when no one was looking? Number 4, what did Ivan whisper to his brother through the window? And number 5, why did Ivan hold the squirrel tail? Okay, what I would really like you to do is answer those for me. So in the jotter in one of the books that you've got, or on a piece of paper, and send your answers through Class Dojo on your portfolio. Okay, I look forward to seeing all that work, and I'll see you soon. Okay, so bye.